We have a guest in the studio here with us. This is On the Shelf. This is when we talk about our favorite old movies, TV shows from back in the day. We pull them off the shelf like videotapes, and we do it in like whether it's a film series or famous director or whatever and everything. So my usual host, Dan Halperin, is on holiday, but I'm joined by a good old friend, another one. Yes, I have two. James Brooksbank, who used to host our original Essential shows with me and everything. So it's good that we can have him back in the conversation. So James, what's up?
Not much, thank you. How's you?
Well, how's my lockdown? Is as always effed up. But I like to think about it is that it's really good to see you again, James, because it's like we used to have like a lot of great conversations and everything. So as we're still in the virtual space, we're on our own YouTube channel called The Essentials now, and where we have these different shows. So it's good to get some other co-hosts in. And what happened was we were just having a conversation. I don't know how it got to Star Wars, but I felt like, well, I haven't talked about Star Wars with Dan, so why not? Because you asked me a curious question. What do you mean you hate Star Wars? And I'm like, what do you mean you don't? So this is going to be an interesting conversation with two opposing views on the legend that was Star Wars.
This is what I honestly don't understand the hate. I don't understand why people thought the last film, where the hate comes from, and especially considering the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand where the hate comes from, because all the comments I've heard about it are like, oh, where did Darth Sidious's clone come from? Oh, where did the fleet come from? All this stuff. And it's like, for feck's sake, do you not remember the original trilogy? Where did Darth Vader's mask come from? Where did Darth Sidious suddenly come along? How did he stop looking like a monkey from Empire Strikes Back?
I'm only just dying.
A poor choice. I think that she had a lovely arc, and it closed off quite well. I thought everyone had an arc. I thought Adam Driver was the weakest part of the entire saga. I thought he was naff, but in all fairness...
You thought who was the weakest?
Adam Driver.
Yeah.
Kylo. I thought the only good thing about him was he reminded me of Hayden Christensen, because they were just... There was either no emotion or far too much emotion. So that's just... I honestly really enjoyed the new trilogy. I did, and I liked the way it ended. I like to see what the next kind of like sagas are going to be. So that's my kind of like little event.
So yeah, all right. So being back into it, right? We're going to talk about the trilogy, and I understand that like you have your opinion about the different characters that were in the Rise. But I think it is good to first look at it in context, right? So from Force Awakens to Last Jedi to Rise, you'll understand when I get to say how I feel about these characters as to what probably other people will feel is what was wrong with it. But can you just say again, like what, I mean, why were you confused about why people were hating on it?
Because people's reasonings behind it just made no sense.
Uh-huh.
This is it. People saying that too much focus was on Rey. It's like, yes,
exactly.
Too much focus. Rey's, that was the whole point of it. Rey was the kind of like cornerstone for it. Rey was this saga's Luke. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like saying Luke Skywalker got too much focus. Mm-hmm. That's the key point. It was Rey's journey. Rey was the Jedi. Mm-hmm. This wasn't the prequels where they had shitloads of Jedi. This was the story of one woman finding her destiny and tying everything together at the end. So they weren't constrained in the next saga by all the other stuff that's kind of like going on. And, I didn't want to, people got annoyed at Luke Skywalker kind of like throwing away the lightsaber and throwing away all his Jedi training. It's like, they explained quite clearly why he did that. I think.
Well, it was a matter of different directors, and they tried to replace that director's actual choice by bringing back the original director of J.J. Abrams to reinvent Rise of Skywalker, to not follow the path that Rian Johnson set it upon.
But
this is why we have to look at it in context.
I think he did follow the path. Well, I mean, what maybe this is where people had an expectation. The path had nothing to do with Luke Skywalker. The path was Rey's journey from the first to the second to the third, and it picked up perfectly. What was Rey supposed to do when Luke Skywalker died? Was she supposed to go all grey Jedi? Well, she was supposed to go find some other way of training to make her a more experienced Jedi. That's what she did. Right. What was the other stuff that people were kind of like trying to sort of like Leia? She kind of like became a little bit more, although it was shit how it was done in The Last Jedi, but it became a lot clearer. She was a lot more powerful with the Force than which was even hinted at in the previous ones. And it made sense in the third one when you kind of like found out that she had trained as a Jedi under Luke. She had Jedi training, which wasn't really approached in the fourth one. And so, that made complete sense. Rian Johnson made a fairly boring film. It was the Attack of the Clones of the new sequels. But I mean, I don't see the storyline not following it. Yeah. Everyone was doing exactly what they should have been doing.
Well, all right. Well, let's take it from the beginning there, right? So, Force Awakens, right? The first of the final trilogy that we've all been waiting for. I mean, like, I'm just only a bit older than you, I would like to think. But ever since I was a kid, since the original trilogy came out, we were all aware that George Lucas actually had 3 trilogies in mind, right? Yeah. So the first trilogy blew everyone's minds because at the time it was, whoa, this was amazing. When you look back at it, you go, it wasn't that amazing, but it was amazing for the generation at that time. So then when George Lucas had control over the second trilogy, which was Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith, it was kind of like, maybe he shouldn't be in control. You know what I mean? My opinion, I know, but that's when they decided to relinquish George Lucas's full control and put it into the hands of Kathleen Kennedy, who wanted a female-centric universe. She wanted what some people call SJWs. She wanted to have this third and final trilogy go in a whole different direction, even though it was going to be based supposedly on George's original 9 trilogies, 9 episodes. Now, I remember reading the original concepts. Do you think that these 3 films followed his original vision, or do you think that it was changed? Let's start there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I mean,
do you think he always had an intention to follow some young female who was going to be, like you just said, the Luke of the series?
I honestly don't think George Lucas thought that far ahead about him. I thought they had. Don't forget, when he made the original trilogy, A New Hope wasn't named number 4. It wasn't even called A New Hope. It was called Blue Harvest. Up until like halfway through it, Starkiller was the name of Skywalker. He was throwing things on the fly as they kind of like hit. And then if you go into the original prequel kind of like stuff, yeah, it was a Stark. But the reason why he had an arc to follow was because he knew where it was aiming for. It had to match up with number 4. So the 3 of them had to have cornerstone thing. They had to have Anakin getting discovered. They had to have Anakin working with Obi-Wan Kenobi. They had to have, Yoda kind of like coming into it. They had to have Obi-Wan versus Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader. They had to have Order 66.
They had to connect the dots.
They had to connect the dots there because there was a finite point. George Lucas had painted himself into everything. And that's where he went wrong with those prequels is he had all this other stuff and he had to pad out all these movies to fit in all these little bits and bobs. And don't get me wrong, I love Revenge of the Sith. I think that film is really good and has hit a lot of emotional standpoints with me. Phantom Menace is okay. Attack of the Clones, I watch because I have to, because you have to watch the trilogy. You know, there are problems with those movies, though, as there are problems with the 4, 5, and 6. But that's because George Lucas, he didn't really know what he was going to be doing in the next one on that. When he did Star Wars: A New Hope, he didn't have a plan for Empire at all. You can tell, yeah. He kind of like the whole "I am your father" thing was written after Star Wars: A New Hope had been done. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, so George Lucas saying George Lucas had a vision was an incorrect thing. George Lucas's vision changes on the tide. So, of course, he may not have had when he did 5 and 6, when he created the idea of having 3 trilogies. He may not have had the story of a woman doing it, but I would be probably dead on by him saying he probably had an idea for an individual hero finding their destiny from it.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with that being a woman or a man?
Oh, I never said anything was wrong with it. I think that, you know, when you had the glorious and amazing Natalie Portman as Padme, as the twins' mother, I thought she was short-shafted in the second trilogy because we ended up following Hayden Christensen, which ended up going down a bad road. So here was this woman who was supposed to give birth to the twins, you know, and everything. And you're supposed to come up with a logic for how the babies, 1, how she gets pregnant, 2, when did the babies get taken away or sent off to different parents and all of that other kind of stuff. And that's not very exciting drama for a sci-fi spectacle that was Revenge of the Sith. So like in that aspect is that, you know, they paint themselves into a corner because like you just said, it wasn't what the original plan was, but it was made up along the way. But I think when Kathleen Kennedy came in with The Force Awakens, I think she came in with the usual here we go. We have to have powerful women and we have to have essential diversity. Yeah. And everything. So we'll come up with a powerful female character who looks like Padme, who may or may not be the daughter of Luke Skywalker, but she mysteriously has force powers. And then, what do we do? How do we bring in somebody else? Oh, wait a minute. You know what? Those stormtroopers, even though we came up with the idea that Jango Fett cloned all of the clones, you know what I mean, and everything like that, all of a sudden there's a black man in the stormtrooper suit.
Yeah, but stop. Well, pause.
I'm talking about Force Awakens.
Han Solo was originally a stormtrooper. It has already been established in canon that Harrison Ford, Han Solo, was working for the Empire. Their whole idea of them being clones was very much gone. They didn't have an unlimited supply of clones. There was always going to be kind of like that whole aspect about that whole thing about, you know, the Empire drawing in. And if you start looking into the comic books, which is I think is part of the problem, is they approached the saga, the last trilogy, in the same way that people took the original trilogy, which was there are a lot of gaps. We're going to use comics and novels to fill this in,
or what they call the expanded universe.
Yeah, and what they did there, especially in relation to Finn, was in some of the latest comic books, they describe how the Empire, how the First Order were taking force-sensitive children, kids, and raising them into the Empire, and that's how Finn became like one of the troopers.
All right, but wait. Let's talk about that. But this is where you get Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams. Okay, so we're gonna make a stormtrooper a hero, and he's gonna be black. But what's his backstory? He's a garbage man
Yeah, but
who all of a sudden just wakes up one day. I don't want to be a stormtrooper. There was no reason. There was no in the third film, he becomes force sensitive. In the first film, he's not. He just wakes up one day. So that way they get that iconic shot in the trailer where he just wakes up. And he's like, I don't want to be a stormtrooper anymore.
But,
no reason, bro.
No. But what's to say, and this is the thing about the Force, what's to say that him wakening up that point wasn't the whole awakening aspect about things?
It probably was, but it wasn't really
he used the lightsaber. The lightsaber cannot normally be done without some people who have a slight amount of ability with the Force. Mm-hmm. So, and he lit a lightsaber. He didn't know what to do with it.
No.
But they set that kind of plateau for him doing it. And let's be honest, Luke Skywalker was a farm boy who just knew about hydration. Han Solo was the adventurer, and you had a princess, and then at the side you had Yokel, who's never left a planet. Was the only time that he ever did target practice was fighting Womp Rats, and then he goes and fucking targets a tunnel in the Death Star and blows it up.
But so this
of
is
course he can.
Yeah,
so
of course he can. But this is where people get upset about this film is because you're right. So Luke is just a farm boy who's going off to sell some droids or buy some droids, and he gets up into this adventure. So Finn is a garbage man turned stormtrooper who all of a sudden just wakes up one day, takes off his uniform, and meets a woman who, for some reason, she's trying to buy something, and they get caught up in, the stormtroopers' attack or whatever. I think they're on Jakku or something like that. But my point is that are they drawn together? Possibly. Are they both force sensitive? Possibly. Is anything explained? No. But so now we have our two adventurers who are caught up into this, New Republic attack.
But again, you kind of going that it comes from nothing. That's exactly what happened in the original trilogy.
Well, no, because the droid that he bought had the message from the princess.
That's the message to go to Obi-Wan, and he kind of does that, and then he approaches.
And he happens to know Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan was actually watching him.
Yeah, well, this isn't a conversation because Obi-Wan was kind of like the. He wasn't what formed the team. He wasn't the thing that formed Team Skywalker. But what you've got to compare their little thing to is how Han met Luke. And that was purely a case of them just needing a ship.
Yeah, so, and Obi goes...
And Obi-Wan didn't do that with Han.
No, I know, but he was with Luke when Luke went to go buy the ship.
You look at in Force Awakens, Finn comes down, and they think that Finn thinks the First Order is coming for him, so he's trying to escape. No, but it's actually BB-8 who's being done. Rey has got BB-8 and is working with him and taking pictures.
Another random droid.
A brilliant random droid.
I know,
but looking after. You can't the entire basis for Force Awakens, which I love, but it was just a rehash of A New Hope.
That's what I was trying to say, bruv. It's the same story. It's JJ doing Star Trek again. You know what I mean? But this is the problem. So JJ was hired to redo what he did with Star Trek, but do it with Star Wars. So yes, ma'am. Give me the plan. So everybody is just a redrawn character, traceable character of another character. Do you know what I mean?
And the weaknesses in those relationships are the same weaknesses that are present in the original saga.
Well, he's tracing over a bad story, is what you're saying. You know what I mean? So, and he can't make it any better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The complaints people have had with the last saga, with the latest one, are the same complaints that if we'd seen the original saga as movie viewers without seeing it before,
Mm-hmm.
we would have the same complaints to it.
Yeah, without being starry-eyed kids who are
Yeah.
like, "Wow, space! This is amazing."
Yeah, exactly. And you can see that whenever you see adults who've never seen Star Wars before, when you make them watch it, they have the same reaction. It's kind of like, this is all, we don't care. This is all wishy-washy. And most people, adults who watch the Star Wars things, will find that the last trilogy is better than the previous two.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And,
yeah. Well, yeah, they are better. I'm just trying to say is they're not great, but they're better. And
no,
stuff.
I mean, I'm not saying I just think my complaint is people complaining about most of the things that they're complaining about are the same complaints that would be drawn to the original trilogy, not the prequel trilogy, because that is a whole other load of problems.
Yeah, we're not even going to go there.
No, but the problems that people have with the new trilogy are easily the same as people with the original ones. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the relationships and story foundations.
But I mean, but still, there's this weakness of like, if I'm only just trying to trace over an old story, which is where I think we both agree that's what JJ was doing. You know, it's like, let me reinvent new characters that are based upon these old characters. So then you get the third person in the trilogy or the third person in the triad, which is Cameron Poe. You know, replacing the roguish, Han Solo and everything. And like, so you got this dynamic with the three of them where you're like, there should be a relationship in this isosceles triangle bit, but where should that be? Should it be Finn and Rey, or should it be Finn and Poe? Well, what about Rey and Poe? No, that doesn't seem to work for us. And it's like, ooh, what the hell is going on?
But again, I don't think that they didn't need.
Well,
to be
that's what they were trying to do. You know, they were trying to do. You didn't think they were trying to? Where's our relationship triangle here? You didn't think they were trying to do that, and then didn't know how to do it?
No, I don't. I don't see it as that. I don't think that they were trying to peg a romantic relationship on anything. I think they were just trying to say these are three people, in the same way that you had, like the Stand By Me squad team or the Monster Squad, just a group of friends who have got a shared destiny, who are trying to move forward with that. And in the last one, Finn found his little kind of like bit on the side.
Oh, we're gonna get to her, man. Don't jump ahead. We're getting to that. And that's a whole nother mess.
Yeah, and then Poe kind of like,
and don't forget that they tried to set up Poe with that Felicity in a rollerball helmet. The girl Kerry Russell. You know what I mean? So they try to say, look, people, stop saying that these guys are gay, because they're not. He got Kerry Russell in the helmet, and we're gonna give him some random black girl who also was a ex-stormtrooper who rides horses.
But this is the thing.
Who also might be Lando Calrissian's daughter. Let's just throw that in.
I mean, I think that half of the people in the Star Wars generation with that skin complexion probably were Lando's. Guy.
There is that. Yes, there is that. But I mean, it was messy. It was messy, James. You know it was.
No, I'm not saying. I'm not saying it's the perfect film. I'm just saying I enjoyed the entire saga, but I'm not. I've reached a point now in adulthood where I don't get drawn up on the. I get more irate at other sci-fi kind of things, but I understand that with this new trilogy, people have to. It's not a one-off medium. People have to go and watch these films and enjoy the films as they are. And the vast majority of people who won't see it will have found it entertaining. The people who get hung up about it are the ones who are canonizing things, and they forget that it's not for those people. It's not just limited to the movies. You have the comics, you have the novels, just exactly the same as the original trilogy. Not necessarily the prequels, because they didn't do it, but the original trilogy. I found out how Darth Vader got turned on Mustafar and his fight. I learned about that from my friend telling me and showing me the book of that. I learned how the Death Star kind of like was getting built. Through various means, one of which was Kevin Smith talking about in Clerks, kind of like how the new empire was building up, that whole thing about it. Yeah. That made me look into it. You know, I started looking at the other stuff around that to learn
more. Which
more.
means you were looking at better writers who wrote better stories about this universe
George
development.
Lucas. But George, he did that. He wanted to create a universe, but you can't create a universe in just 3 movies. You can't create a universe in 9 movies. You look at the DC, you look at the Marvel movie cinematic universe, and most of that, they built a universe around it, but there's also loads of supporting stuff that goes.
It was the 4th movie, which was the Avengers. Pretty much.
There's a lot of supporting stuff underneath that, though, where people kind of like learned a little bit more about the character relationships because of the comic books that aren't necessarily related, but underpinned it. Whereas you look at the DCEU, and where they flubbed that, they tried to get a universe going with movies, but they didn't because they just threw away half of the source material because it wasn't movie enough. Whereas what they tried to do in this, with what they did successfully in the original trilogy, was they built the movies as a foundation, and then the other writers who worked with George Lucas to develop that underlying universe.
And other directors, don't forget, like you just said about Irvin Kershner coming in and doing Empire. Yeah,
and then, but with the new trilogy, what they tried to do is they're going, right, this is the foundation for these movies here. For the future of those things, because we're not using any of the previous expanded universe. But what we're doing here is these are the 3 movies, and these are the main story plots that have gone on in this universe, in this future time. Now, you can go to the comic books and you can go to the novelization to find out all the stuff that we couldn't fit in, because if we did, it would have been boring and dull and being like, did I really want to know how the Empire, how all the story arc between how all these people on a weird ass planet suddenly started mining stuff? I hated the politics stuff in the original, in the new prequels. I don't want to see that. I am perfectly.
Well, it was also very racist as well, and everything. Well, in the prequels, it was very racist because it's like they put it. The council. I don't want to even go down there with George Lucas, because he should be ashamed of himself. He has a black wife. He should be ashamed of himself.
They managed to find room for the ET aliens, didn't they? But they couldn't find room for anyone else in it.
Anyway, so let's talk about the original cast coming back. So like with Force Awakens, so it's like they're like, okay, so this is only going to live and die upon the living and survival of the original cast. So for some strange reason, which I don't understand, is like we only get like Luke in a cloak with his hand on top of R2-D2. I don't know why we don't get him into this movie except for in that final scene. We get Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher, who is not well, right? But okay, so we get her at the linchpin. She's now the general. She's commanding the resistance. And then we get Han Solo, Harrison Ford, who lividly hates Star Wars.
Yeah.
They pulled up a buckload or truckload of money and said, look, dude, what if we killed you? You know what? I'll come back just to be killed. And so they decide, okay, but we needed to be that you and Leia had a kid, and this kid was somewhat trained by Luke, and he goes crazy, and he puts on a Darth Vader helmet because it's his grandfather. And then we got Ben Solo. That was horribly crazy. I don't blame Adam Driver, even though he's one of those method actors, but I blame this plot concept of Ben Solo becoming Kylo Ren, creating a Knights of Ren that don't do anything, and he's conflicted, and that confliction is that his parents gave him up, and he ends up killing his dad. Now, I was like everybody else in the movie theater, James, when Force Awakens came out. I didn't care. It can't do no wrong. I'm sitting there, I'm loving it. You know what I mean? And I'm loving when Han and Chewie's like, Chewie, we're home. Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
That's why it made $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
But to come back, sleepwalk through whatever scene you're in, and then to be killed, no, I do not give it that. I'm like, no, I don't. What was your thoughts?
Well, I mean, right, okay. What else were you going to do with a 70-year-old man who was having trouble walking?
Come on, man. He's going to play Indiana Jones in Indiana Jones 5. Don't bring his age up.
Look, Indiana Jones' Crystal Skulls was awful.
We know that. That's why he wants to do 5.
I don't want to see an old person basically kind of like just panting and running out and kind of like having to carry a colostomy bag with them all the time. At some point, you're going to have Harrison Ford. I mean, if you look at all the Star Wars stuff, it's any time somebody turns to the dark side, it's through an emotional hit in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And Kylo was never going to get that turning to the dark side. We were never going to get that image of him kind of like almost turning to the dark side without him doing something
dark.
That does it. Dark. Yeah, you have Anakin Skywalker with the younglings and basically wiping out the Jedi. Even in the non-canon and canon books and comic books, every time you hear about a Jedi falling and turning to the dark side, there is always a crux point. Something they have to sacrifice, something they love to get it. Even in the original canons, for Darth Sidious to become a Sith, he had to wipe out his entire family. And that's part of it. Kylo was never going to become a full Sith without him killing either Leia, Luke, or Han. One of them was going to get it, and he couldn't find Luke. Leia was kind of like hidden in the rebellion. Han was there in front of him. Basically, there with a big target, kind of like saying, kill me now. Because
I want to get off of this. I want to get off of this boat. Kill me now. And no, you will not get me to come back as a Force ghost. And I'll come and give you 3 days. He must have given them just like 3 days or less than a week to do that movie.
And he broke his leg
huh?
He broke his leg as well.
Did he? When did he break his leg? When he fell?
No, it was caught on something on the Millennium Falcon.
Oh my God, I didn't hear that story. Wow.
Yeah, no, he can't.
He's like, I hate you, Lucas.
Yeah, I hate you for putting me in a situation where I made millions and millions of pounds when I was a carpenter. And now, But,
champagne dreams, bro.
This is the thing. I just think him being on it, somebody was only going to be on it for one. And it was going to be the most useless member for where they wanted to go because it was a story about Jedi. This is what they keep forgetting about the original saga is, well, not the original saga, but we want to see Jedi shit. We don't
exactly, and we didn't really get to see Jedi. I mean, we get to see Leia. I mean, not Leia. What's her name again? Rey do some bits, but it seemed like when they came up with the concept for this final trilogy, that they said to themselves, what we're going to do is in each episode, we're going to kill off one of the major 3. So Han, you could go first. Luke, you'll go second. And then Leia will be third and stuff like that. But then Leia actually, didn't survive past the second one. But that's another story. So either way is that seemed to be what the grand plan was. I mean, JJ was going to set this universe up and then hand it over to the new golden boy, Rian Johnson. For some reason, they think he's got talent. And he has done 1 or 2 good films, but not sci-fi. Because that they had planned for Rian to do his own trilogy, but that plan was scrapped.
It's not, from what I heard, it's not necessarily anymore. From what I heard, there was a news article I was reading the other day where it isn't scrapped. They might still be doing it.
Well, it won't be under Kathleen Kennedy's tutelage, who actually greenlit it. So I think they are planning to do another Star Wars thing, but I don't think it's Rian. But if it is,
I did hear. But this is the thing, though. This trilogy, it was never kind of like it was supposed to be the end point, end of story. This is it, done. We don't, you keep the.
But they made $1 billion, James.
Yeah, but this is the start. They weren't saying the end of Star Wars. They were saying
just the end of the Skywalker
saga, and they had to kind of like chop it all off. They had to do something to just put the nail in these characters here. We're kind of like going to just end them. We're going to stop this heritage thing, and that is part of the problem. You look at the original, all the problems from this saga in the movie universe were coming from the whole idea of family. The curse of
like
the
bloodline.
Yeah, that bloodline, the Skywalker bloodline, was cursed from the very beginning of the fact that the midichlorians, whoever created Anakin, all the way up to, the rough bits about Empire, him not knowing his father, him being, all that stuff. Then with Kylo, it was a curse. Having the Skywalker name attached to you was always going to lead never to you having a pleasant life. It was always going to end up you were either going to be turned into the villain or you were going to die the hero. And that's exactly, I know that I'm taking that from a different trilogy. But that's exactly what happened. Luke died a hero. Luke gave his last bit of life essence to make sure the rebellion could survive in some way, shape, or form. He sacrificed. He gave himself the ultimate sacrifice. Han Solo was sacrificed for the Skywalker, for that curse. Leia died because of that curse. And Kylo sacrificed his last bit of being a Skywalker to end that fucking family thing and allow the universe to move on. And it did that by Rey kind of like getting rid of this Force Deus or whatever it was called. So it ended. And it ended the entire thing.
But see, the problem is, right, like we're talking about it, right? And like, want to get to the second one. But in us talking about it, we talked about the original trilogy, original 3 and stuff, and the coming back and all of that. We haven't really said anything about Rey, Finn, or Poe. They weren't as significant as they should have been as new characters for us to follow. Their significance didn't really come until the third film of Rise. But you know what I mean? So because what they were too busy doing was separating them. They brought them together, separated them, and it separated them. They diluted their importance. It became about the rise of Kylo Ren, like you just said. It became about the death of Han Solo. They had their little adventures, like with Maz Kanata and finding the lightsaber and all that. But they did nothing. They did nothing, man. I mean, it was bombastic a little bit, right? A little bit of stunt and special effects. But come on, seriously, can you tell me that the 3 of them were anywhere near memorable in this first movie?
No, in Force Awakens.
That's what I mean. In Force Awakens, was Rey, Finn, and Poe anywhere near memorable in this first movie?
I definitely say yeah. I definitely took away from it. I took away all the new characters. I got a BB-8 remote controlled droid, like the 120 pound one. I loved Rey. I thought she was absolutely amazing in it, and I wanted to know more about her backstory.
Which they destroyed. This is what I'm trying to say is, what the hell was on their mind, right? Rey should have been Luke's daughter. He's like you read the books. Wait. You read the books, right? Isn't there a character? I didn't read the books, but I heard about her. There was a girl, Mara Jade, right, who was Luke's daughter, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Why didn't they do that?
Because
was she not a part of the licensing deal?
No, they got rid of all that canon. They got rid of that. That was the expanded universe. And didn't you what I just said? You make her Luke's daughter, and she survives at the end. Then the Skywalker saga isn't over.
All right. But guess what? At the end of Rise of Skywalker, what did she say?
We're all Skywalker.
No, she says, "I'm Rey Skywalker." So, which
Yeah.
means that they changed their mind.
But no, but
When they
that was
made Force Awakens, they wanted to make her nobody because they wanted to do what you just said, that people are force sensitive. They did. They wanted to make her nobody. She wasn't
you
special. She
missed the
wasn't
point. You missed the point for that. Or I'm Rey Skywalker. You missed the point of that.
Okay. All
It
right.
wasn't her saying my blood is Skywalker. What she's saying is that her history.
She's going to carry on the legend of Skywalker.
Yeah, she's carrying on the good parts of the Skywalker legacy, but she's not tied down by all the rest of the shit that kind of like comes on.
The curse.
You make her Skywalker's daughter, then that blood. All you're doing is a cycle of repeat. Kylo Ren, he turned to the dark side. She's the light side. It's the Darth Vader. It's the son and father kind of thing, just with different siblings. You leave her alive at the end of it. You've not ended it. What we've done here is we have ended this cycle now. And her saying, I'm now Rey Skywalker, is her saying, I'm owning that name for the positive side of things, but I'm not tied down to the blood. And that was an important part of where they needed to go. It means that they're no longer tied to it. The Skywalker, the good Skywalker name, the good that Anakin did, the good that Luke did, the good that Leia did, isn't taken away. All the bad stuff is gone. The Darth Vader, the Kylo Ren, that is gone. All that's left now is the Skywalker. And in all fairness, what's she going to suddenly turn around and go, I'm Rey Palpatine, because that would cause a whole other shit. That would scare the bejesus out of anybody that kind of like suddenly turned up. Oh shit! So you're not a Skywalker, but you are a Palpatine.
That's who she was, because she turned out to be Palpatine's granddaughter. That's who she was, and everything. But so let's move to the second one, right? The Last Jedi, which unfortunately wasn't the last film. Now, this film opens up with like a rebellion battle. And again, with this thing called diversity, they create two Asian sisters, right? And everything. One dies as a hero, and the other is just like a mechanic, a nobody, right?
Wasn't in the first one? Wasn't that in the first one?
No. This was Last Jedi, bro. Last Jedi, where the girl, she, because this was Poe's run on that thing, and then she has to sacrifice herself because the bombs don't release. It was like a repeat of an Enola Gay incident with Asians behind the wheel, right? And everything like that. So it's like bombing Pearl Harbor, but an Asian. And I'm only saying Asian because I don't actually know. I think she was Korean or something like that. But either way, right? So she saves the day. An Asian saves the day by bombing up the enemy and stuff like that. So it's like a Pearl Harbor incident. Great idea, Rian Johnson, because this is now in the hands of Rian Johnson and it's not in the hands of J.J. Abrams and everything, with the tutelage of Kathleen Kennedy. So she got her female empowerment because we got Laura Dern as like the new general, all these kind of things. We also have Carrie Fisher's daughter in there in a small role and everything else like that. Poe is like, now I gotta admit, that joke was funny. It was immature, but it was funny. It was like, pretending that you can't hear, what's his name? Huck.
Yeah.
And everything like that. That was funny and immature. But this goes to show you what Rian Johnson is doing. I'm gonna bring the humor into this film. Finn wakes up and for some reason he walks around leaking water. What's going on?
Right. I mean,
I'm baffled by the craziness of this movie.
Last Jedi, I will admit, had, I mean, I don't need to admit anything. It has problems. It has huge problems. Like the longest, boringest space,
stupidest
space sort of like travel going. It's just kind of like, and let's tie back to a snail versus a tortoise. It was kind of like that. It was kind of like they're just out of range. All of a sudden, they've just lost the ability to fire something out of range. All of a sudden, doesn't that feels that is a proper story problem. That that whole MacGuffin there was kind of doing it. But on the flip side to that, you can see that what they wanted to do was say, right, we've got to do something about Rey and Luke. We've got to have,
and we got to keep Rey. We got to keep Rey and Finn separated.
Right? We've just got to get Rey. We've got to get Rey. Of course, they're going to be separated. This is a story about Rey's journey. It's not.
I know it's not a love story. I'm sorry.
It's not a love story. It's about friends, and friendship, and the journey together. But Rey has to sit with Luke. Rey has to go through that. That's got to be the focus. We've got to be doing this, and we've got to throw Yoda in somewhere. But everybody else has to be doing something. So what are we going to have them do? We're going to have this MacGuffin of a space race going on, and then that's going to end that. And put
do you think that Mark Hamill's approach to old Luke was, I'm gonna be like Yoda, where Yoda when Luke went to Dagobah to do his training for Empire, Yoda was there, not here, but he was like, he wasn't an emotional animal for Luke. He forced Luke to train. Do you think Luke was trying to train Rey, or really just like being an asshole?
No, I don't think it's either of them. I think it was like he didn't want to get involved in it. From his perspective, every single time a Skywalker's got involved in Jedi training, it's put the universe at risk.
He's lost all of his students. That's the backstory. He's lost all of his students.
Yeah, but one of his students, his dad was Darth Vader, the biggest badass of the universe, and now one of his prodigy students and his nephew, who's also a Skywalker, has now become the second.
Yeah. So he feels cursed.
Yeah, he feels cursed. So he doesn't want to kind of like do the Jedi. He doesn't want to be involved in any way, shape, or form in a battle. He doesn't want that, because it's like any time that we get involved somewhere along the line, especially the men. I mean, maybe that's kind of like an SJW approach. I don't know. But, whenever the men get involved in the male Skywalkers, it goes wrong in lots of different ways. So he's like, at the moment, I've not taken over the universe.
Right.
No, I completely forgot what my thought was.
I mean, where we were at was the fact that so Luke is reluctantly, he's not really training Rey. She's training herself. But she's also there's this cave in a hole in the ground that we think is going to give us answers into who she is, and it gives us more confusion, like seeing herself in infinity again, proving that she's nobody with no past.
Well, no, I don't see it like that. I see it like the cave, like the Dagobah, the tree in Dagobah. It was an approach. It was there to elicit an emotional reaction from her. It's a cast on her own sense of doubt. This is what I've been told. This is how I feel. It's something trying to bring out the dark side of her by playing on that sense of lack of self. She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know who her family is. She doesn't know. She has Kylo Ren who lies to her. Well, we know it's a lie.
Because they had this psychic connection.
Yeah. There's a lie there that he's done. It's sort of like everything about that is about somebody who doesn't know who she is. And she goes to that cave to see the infinity, and she sees all this infinity as if she is nothing. And it's not because it's saying that she's nothing. It's because it's a reaction. That case of when Luke was in the tree and he sees in Dagobah and he fights Darth Vader, chops off the head, and it falls down and it opens up, and it's him inside Darth Vader's mask. That isn't him kind of like going, "Oh, I'm nothing. I'm just kind of like." No, that is him going. That is the Force saying to him, the dark side of the Force trying to draw him out to say, "You are just going to be like Darth Vader." Because at the time he didn't know that Darth Vader was his dad. But it's there saying, "Look, I know what you're worried about. For some reason, you're worried about this something that's underlying there.
You're worried
And
about becoming evil because it's in your blood, like the
yeah.
midichlorians.
But at that time, he didn't know that.
No.
Well, there's a great scene in the Clone Wars, Jen V. Tartovsky Clone Wars bit when Anakin goes through his version of this, and he meets this tribe, and he kind of like sees an animation of him of how that's done. The Force works to the dark side of the Force, which is this spiritual thing, plays on people and finds out their weaknesses and what's more likely to turn them to the dark side, and it plays on that. They couldn't play on Rey kind of like going that she's Palpatine's daughter or anything, granddaughter, because she didn't know that.
They also didn't know they would end up getting Palpatine for the third film.
But I mean, I don't necessarily think that they would have been necessarily worried about that. I do think that they had somewhere where it was going to unveil. And I'll be honest, after Last Jedi, I do remember reading a lot of kind of like talk about, I do think she's Palpatine's daughter. And I even thought she was Palpatine's daughter.
No, I know. But what I'm trying to say is Ian McDormand, right, is old. Yeah. And it wasn't, and it was also under, again, we're talking about Rian Johnson's movie, really. So it wasn't really until they felt that movie didn't work did the idea come for JJ to take over. And do you think we could get Ian McDormand? You think he'd be still up for this? And he was.
No, but I think
the last minute decision is what I mean about the Palpatine.
I think you're wrong. I mean, it was Rian Johnson's movie, but he didn't go in there writing a blank check. He didn't go in there writing a blank story.
No.
He went in there in the same way that Disney do with the Marvel movies, which is, okay, this is where we're going. These are the things that we need to do. So in Ant-Man...
We need somebody to connect the dots.
Yeah, and they had that. And I honestly do believe that from the very beginning, when they had Rey there, she was always going to be Palpatine's granddaughter.
Mm.
There's nothing in there that contradicts that. In fact, if you watch The Last Jedi now, after watching Rise of Skywalker, it makes sense when she does that hovering, and Luke goes over to her and touches her and then gets that sudden rush of the dark side, and he doesn't know where she is or what's going on there. It makes sense. It kind of makes sense for her to have such a potential draw for the dark side, for being one of the, if not the strongest Sith in the Star Wars universe, and being genetically related to him in some way. And it's not even a granddaughter, it's like a clone that is a clone of Darth Sidious that escaped and formed a family. So
well, I think so. Let me ask you, what was because relationship seems to be a hard thing in this series. What do you think they were, or Ryan was, or whoever was trying to do with this whole psychic telephoning thing between Rey and Ben? What do you think? I mean, do you think they were trying for a romantic thing or a sibling thing, like that they might be brother and sister? What do you think they were trying to do with that relationship?
Well, after seeing Last Jedi,
and I just mean in Last Jedi, not in Rise.
Yeah, in Last Jedi, I do think that there was kind of like going to be, they were trying to draw up as some sort of like emotional thing where Rey would have had to make the choice, because love is another thing. You can't have formal relationships being a Jedi because relationships lead to bad stuff. Mm-hmm. And they were possibly trying to set that up for them to form some sort of relationship, so Rey would have been tested to earn her Jedi-ness, to say the word, and Kylo was basically there as a sacrificial lamb for Rey to put down her lightsaber in front of her and go, "I'm not fighting you," or if I am fighting you, it's not because I'm attracted to you, or it's because it's what's needed to happen for the Force to become balanced again. And that's what I think it was never going to be. They were never going to become Kylo and Rey, the happy years. It was never going to end up like that.
I think they were always supposed to be the light and the dark, weren't they?
Yeah.
And then like the yin and the yang has to bond.
Yeah.
So they were always going to be opposites. So that's why they could display that with the psychic connection without physically connecting.
Yeah, but when you find out that she's Palpatine's granddaughter, there's always been something about that connection between Palpatine and the Skywalkers.
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not there's still the theory that Palpatine created the Skywalker from manipulating the midichlorians, there was always that kind of like history about him possibly being the coordinator of that.
Well, what do you think Snoke's involvement was then? I mean, because it seemed like they established Snoke, get rid of Snoke. I mean, what do you think his involvement, or was he just another Sith kind of?
I think, well, I mean, there's the clones of Snoke. You see a vat of clones of Snoke as he walks past in Rise, and in the novel, Snoke is just because Palpatine couldn't have suddenly come back and kind of like go, I'm not really dead,
back.
And he was never going to be able to. Palpatine knew, the Skywalkers knew about Palpatine when Kylo met this Snoke and started warping him. If it was Palpatine who suddenly met him and started warping him, he probably would have ended up killing him, killing his body, because that's the immediate reaction. It's like, we know you're a bad guy. We're just going to get rid of you. Bang. I'm not going to listen to anything you say because I know that you're a bad person. Whereas if you have somebody coming up who you don't know is bad, but it forms that relationship like Senator Palpatine with Anakin. Anakin didn't know Palpatine was bad until he kind of like came up to him. But all the time he was manipulating him. He was playing on that emotion. And Palpatine couldn't do that after Return of the Jedi because everyone thought he was dead or knew he was bad. He couldn't do that to any more Skywalkers. He had to create somebody to sit there, and it was never going to. Palpatine had destroyed all the rest of the Jedi. He couldn't trust anyone, possibly who had the Force that he might have manipulated. He couldn't trust that because that's the other thing about the dark side is you're paranoid about somebody else usurping your power. So he had to put in a totem. He had to do something so he could start manipulating Skywalker to do this. And the entire plan was to get Skywalker to be such a dark side. So it wasn't Rey who he was going to take over. It was Skywalker. He was going to take over Kylo's body. He was going to take over Kylo's kind of like thing. And then Rey pops up, who happened to be almost equally as powerful. And somehow this bond was gone. Palpatine didn't know that he had a granddaughter out there.
No.
And, and it was suddenly this kind of like Palpatine's plans changed. So he didn't need Snoke. So he was perfectly happy with them getting rid of Snoke for that thing. In Last Jedi, that was the time when Palpatine in the background knew that Rey was his granddaughter. He knew that there was something about her that was going to make him more successful in his plan, in his long-term plans.
But then also, I guess what was also like good about that was that it was actually then Palpatine and Solo who took out Snoke and not a Skywalker. Stuff,
I mean, it was a Skywalker, but he was a Solo as well. It was the blood.
Okay. So let's talk about the flying nun who became Leia. When that ship was attacked, and Leia is blasted out into space. What?
There's a lot I'm going to defend about the new trilogy, but I'm not going to defend the spaceship or the random
Listen, bruv, you better be all in.
Listen, no, I've not said that they're perfect movies. There are definite problems. They could have done the Leia suddenly having better Force powers in a better way than being in the middle of space and pulling herself towards something. That could have been. They could have been.
You know what that scene looked like? It looked like Guardians of the Galaxy. When they got all blown up into space, and then Star Lord.
Yeah, it it was,
Stupid. Just say it. It was stupid.
It was stupid. I don't understand
I mean,
why.
Leia wasn't even dead yet. Carrie Fisher wasn't even dead yet. But they just realized that. I don't know why they put her in that situation. They wanted to show that she had force powers. I get it. But they didn't have to freaking blast her into the coldness of space to do it.
No, they could have done something so much better. I mean, it would have been so much better. So
she could have just blasted her like a troop of stormtroopers coming at her something.
Have a load of stormtroopers kind of like coming in. The barriers are there, and they're stopping them, but they're slowly breaking in. Everybody else is panicking, saying they're going to get wiped out. And just as they come down, all of a sudden you see a lightsaber flicking through the air, and then Leia stands up with a lightsaber and just chops them all down.
Or it's like what Rey does when she lifts all the rocks to open up a back opening cave. Anyway, so this leads us to like that final glorious battle when Luke decides to join the fight. And I gotta tell you, the idea, the red sands of blood was amazing. I mean, visually stunning. Showing off Luke like because it was actually his force ghost, so his astral projection. But like Kylo didn't know that until it was too late. So when he's like, yeah, I'm good. I love that.
I love that bit. That was one of my favorite moments of that film. Was just all that blasting coming down and then just Luke, and it was just. But again, it was played well. They needed Kylo to become fixated on a certain point. Yeah. And Luke was already too far away to do anything. Yeah. But
at least he didn't fly through space like Leia.
Yeah, exactly. At least he didn't do that. At least he didn't flying none it. But that little battle, although they didn't ever clash lightsabers.
No.
Although that wasn't there, and in all fairness,
still dynamic and powerful.
It was still dynamic, and it was still. I loved that. I kind of I got the spine tingles from that point. That's, for me, it's it's those moments that make movies for me.
Yeah,
it's the on your left. It's the it's all those moments for me. That's what makes movies for me, and that's The Last Jedi was. It was one of the worst ones out of all 9 movies. But it still got that little bit of a tingle from me, from Luke kind of doing it and finding the Millennium Falcon thing. It had a little bit of an emotional twinge to it that made me kind of go, I'm still in that universe. There were a lot of problems with Last Jedi.
Yeah. So one of them being like, what the hell is Finn doing in this movie? So Finn decides that I'm going to sacrifice myself by trying to fly his X-wing towards like the big ship and everything. But then the girl, Tron, I think her name was, whatever, bumps him out of the way, and neither of them die.
Which,
Now they played her off as like, not like I'm in love with you, but I'm just excited to be around you. I'm a fan, right? And then in the end, Finn, gives that totally soulless kiss that makes you cringe and stuff like that with her. And then you're like, that's because he loves Rey, man. He loves Rey. And I'm like, whatever. I was just over it, man. So I'm trying to say, 2 movies. John Boyega, love him. Glad that he created a strong black character in a major Star Wars universe film, but they didn't know how to do anything with black people, bruv. You know what I mean?
I don't necessarily think they don't know what to do with black people. I think it was just a case of they didn't know what to do with the supporting cast.
No. And unfortunately, they were made up of black people or diverse people.
Yeah, I mean,
because you got Cameron Poe, Oscar Isaacs, and you got Tron Girl, and who are all very diverse.
Yeah,
and they don't know what to do with either of them.
Yeah, but I mean, you kind of like Palpatine was unfortunately a Caucasian male. And so they had to kind of like cast a Caucasian person, so like the lead one, and they had to. So for the rest of it, yeah, okay, they may feel shoehorned in as the characters. I'm not by
They
any
didn't do
means.
nothing, bro.
Pardon?
They didn't do nothing. That's what I mean. They just didn't do nothing.
Yeah. But I think that is a problem. I do think that a lot of their story arcs, you could probably take away a number of those characters. You could definitely take Rose Tycho's character.
Yeah.
I honestly I didn't get what the big thing about her was. I thought she was just, that's like complaining about the guy in Empire Strikes Back who followed Lando Calrissian around with the kind of like shade on it. I was like, doesn't matter about her.
But it seemed like this could be a potential side love interest for him and everything, but he'd rather be with Ray or chase Ray friends and all that. But it just went nowhere, bruv. It went nowhere to the point where when we finally get to this third movie, they just relegated her character to the real supreme background.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is what they had is what I've said throughout it is they had. This is going to be the end of the Skywalker story. Mm-hmm. Everyone else around it is going to be just supporting the beats to get them to where they're going, and that's all. Finn's job was going to be supporting Rey. He was going to be a shoulder for her to cry on. He was going to get involved in some sort of space battle happening further away from where Rey was, but having some kind of like massive impact on things that were going on. But he wasn't, they weren't the story beats. They weren't the people that were kind of like there for it. It was the end of the Skywalker trilogy. And yes, they did. It was unfortunate that they kind of like, their marketing was very heavily look how diverse, look how great we are.
But then they also didn't tell the story. I mean, it's kind of like you can't say why didn't they? They didn't. It's just like it's a waste. It's like some black actress was like complaining about like CW and Riverdale and how like all their black characters are just relegated like to the deep background, but they use them up front only for diversity posters. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, yeah, we have black people in here. And that's how Finn was on the Star Wars posters. Yeah, they're the black heroes. See, look at that. That's for everybody, right? And it's like, it wasn't. Anyway, so,
just to go back, you go into the novelization, there is a lot of Finn stuff. There is a lot.
Wait. Finn is in the novels?
Yeah.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
So they didn't make Finn up for the movie. He was actually a character in the novels.
Yeah.
Just tell us a bit about Finn then, because I didn't.
Well, no, I mean, I haven't read the novels. I just know he's in them.
Oh,
he's in the novelizations for them, and he's in the comics.
Is this before the movie was made, or because the movie was made?
Well, no. When Force Awakens came over, that was the new.
Oh, then they made a novelization and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's all the supporting literature, the stuff that I was going on about before. All the supporting stuff that enhances the universe. It all has. You can read the story.
Yeah. That just means a better writer made a better story, but it wasn't in the movie. I get it.
But again, you can't just keep adding. You've got to have a point. You can't just keep putting everything on, because then they'll be 4-hour movies. These aren't Lord of the Rings.
No, I dig that, bruv, but there has to be a B, and C story. So you have to do something more important with the character than, I mean, like, wait a minute, hold on. Let me get this movie right. So Last Jedi, was that the one they went to the gambling casino?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they create Benicio del Toro's character, right? So he's supposed to be the guy who's supposed to have like the lock pick or whatever to be able to get something, the MacGuffin.
Yeah.
So Finn and Rose go to this gambling casino planet. You know what I mean? They ride these Tauntaun. Well, they weren't Tauntaun. They were fire horses or whatever they were.
They have the whole class. They do a whole thing about class.
And so they do the whole Monaco scene, like Casino Royale and everything. But the point is, do you think, and I know it's Benicio does nothing. So they get the guy, they escape and all of that other kind of stuff. They're on the horses, because the horses will be back in Rise, right? But the point is that he double crosses them. So you're thinking, oh wait a minute, did he double cross them or did he? Like when they sneak into the thing with Hux and all of that, and the deal is that he disappears. Like he's got his money, he disappears. So wait a minute, we just went and got this guy from a planet because he was supposed to be one with the lockpick to open up a thing, and now he's not going to do it. What the hell? We just spent like that B plot or C plot, and it goes absolutely nowhere. That's why I forgot about it for a second. It goes nowhere though. Did it? What was the point?
What did you want? What did you want him to do? Did you want him to open it and then go nowhere?
I wanted him to be significant. It's called the MacGuffin. A MacGuffin is only used like the Maltese Falcon to move the story forward, but there should be some significance for that MacGuffin, not just to be a plot that goes nowhere. You're not supposed to keep a dangling thread.
We're talking about a series of films here that the entire basis of which is one of the biggest movie MacGuffins ever. The Force. The Force is one of the biggest MacGuffins going. It's like, how did this happen? Oh, it's the Force. How did that get moved? Oh, it's the Force. How did they get drawn together? Oh, it's the Force. How did he get created?
We accept it, though. We accept that.
Yeah.
But you still didn't explain Benicio's importance of that character. It was just so that way Finn had a storyline, is what I'm trying to say, that goes absolutely nowhere.
No, but
that's why I said it's a waste of time.
But they needed to get him to go and unlock that. I can't remember exactly what it was.
He was supposed to open up some stuff on a starship.
He got them there. It turned out he was an arsehole and he betrayed them.
Yes.
What more that is a story. They meet him, break him out of jail, take him there. They betray him. He betrays them. What else do you want to know? Do you want them to go out and kill them?
They did. I think they did end up blowing up the plant. That whatever it was.
Exactly. So
base.
he had his arc. It just wasn't a very good one.
No.
It was this bit is happening over here now. Rey and Kylo Ren are fighting on this ship here. Mm-hmm. We need to get them onto there, so they meet up at some point, just for that brief moment.
And it was very brief because it's kind of like, hey, Finn and Rey are together. Okay, let's pull them apart again.
Yeah, and so.
Hey, look, you got a little girlfriend with you. No, she's not my girlfriend. No, seriously, no, she's not.
So, this is it. What they're trying to they let it down with a lot of the other stuff that's going on, but they back that up with everything outside of movies.
Yeah, but, and I think we also was introduced to that cross red saber, weren't we? With the didn't Finn with his blue saber fight Kylo for a second with the red saber. So I mean, we got that. I guess that was heroic, acceptable a little bit as an action sequence, but
I mean, Finn had the moment in Rise of Skywalker where he's kind of like racing.
Oh yeah, but that's the next movie.
He did have moments.
But it gets bigger. It ramps up. That's the next movie. So let's go finally to the Rise, which you wanted to start with in the first place and stuff. So I mean, Rise was, first of all, they said, Ryan, get out. We're gonna bring JJ back. JJ, continue to tell your story. Well, first, what I have to do is get rid of all the bullshit that Ryan set up and go back to my original plan.
But he never got rid of all that bullshit.
No, he did. He moved shit aside, and this is actually what I expected Ryan to do. Because Rise felt a little bit longer because JJ was trying to tell a whole different story than.
Like what? What bits did he move aside? This is where my kind of like things that again that I don't understand.
You've heard it's not me. You've heard it before from other people, haven't you?
I've heard it I've heard it from them, but I've never debated it. So bit? Okay, you right now. What bits did he move aside? Take it one at a time.
Okay. I got to think about it. You got to reawaken my memory on this.
Right, okay.
So what happens? Okay, so. I mean, one hand is JJ makes it more adventurous. Yeah, so like they're more of a team. They're more an action team, all three of them. along with Chewbacca,
Oh,
of course.
my heart. Oh, so he's not
No.
thrown
That's a
aside,
good thing. That's a good
yeah,
thing.
he's not thrown aside a story point though. He's just changed the way that he's just changed the framing of the adventure.
Okay. It'll come to me, but you can explain this part then. All right, we're killing off all of the original members, yeah.
Yeah,
So now it's Carrie Fisher's turn, but what happens is that Carrie had passed. So we get an opening training sequence, that they had to manipulate digitally with
yeah.
Ray and everything. So that was good. That was nice. But what I didn't understand, so you can explain this to me before I try to figure out what it was. Why did Chewbacca get captured, taken onto that ship to show off that Rey has superpowers, and she blows up the ship, and they go, Chewie! She goes, oh my God, Chewie, I just killed Chewie. And then Chewie ends up on the Imperial ship. And wasn't he on that ship? We all just saw that ship take off with Chewie
Yeah,
in
but
it.
we didn't say. Yeah, but we didn't say if that was the only ship.
Come on! No! They led us down the garden path that Chewie's on that ship. She didn't know. She blows that ship up.
Why
You're trying to tell me there is another ship with the Knights of Ren on it?
Are you honestly? Were you honestly surprised that they did kill off Chewie like that? Come on.
I thought, what the hell are they doing? Why? Because it's a sighting, JJ? It's a sighting?
It's the whole case of, it's there for the emotional impact for it, but it's a typical.
Yeah, it was only a 5-second emotional impact.
It's a typical movie trope to kind of like go, look over here, look over here, look over here. When it's
magician.
Yeah, you're focusing on what the left hand is doing and the right hand, and I haven't got the movie straight up here, but I can't remember them saying this is the only ship that we're sending down to this point. If you knew that Rey was one of the strongest kind of like Force users going, would you honestly just send down one ship to kind of like to take her out? No. Kylo Ren went down there. She chopped off one of his wings, kind of like as he kind of tried to take it down.
Okay. Also, thing. I read was that JJ didn't agree with the whole Rey's parents are nobodies, so he creates that flashback story of Palpatine, the clone Palpatine's son, being Rey's dad and the mom, and they sent her to somebody else so that way they could they escape. That whole backstory was JJ reworking what Ryan did about her being nobody. So that was one thing.
This is one of my I get most irritated about all this. Is how is it people are willing to believe the fucking dark side? Sorry, but this is Kylo Ren. This is what I was talking about when we were talking about The Last Jedi. This is Kylo Ren, the dark side, playing on her own insecurities to convert her to the dark side. Kylo Ren, and now I don't know if Adam Driver played it like this. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I didn't believe for one instance that she was a nobody at all. It made no sense for me for her to be a nobody. Number one, because I know what the Star Wars lore is like, so I knew she was going to be connected to someone somewhere at some point. But then, he was lying to her. The dark side lies. That's what it does. It lies to manipulate people to get them onto their side. It's warped. It's a warped kind of like thing. If it was Luke Skywalker turning around to it and saying, you're nobody, then I'd probably be more believable about that. But he didn't. Kylo Ren knew at that point, Darth Sidious knew who she was. And through Snoke, he either manipulated Kylo Ren into telling her she's nobody, saying to him, you need to forget her, she's nobody, or saying to him, she is Palpatine's granddaughter. We need her on the dark side. For her to come to the dark side, she needs to be angry. She needs to be fearful. She needs to be confused, so that way she has no strength. Be confused. and it got to her. That got to her, and it did nearly warp her.
This is indeed true.
Yeah, and it was always all the way through, even on Rise of Skywalker, there was that fear that she was having all the way through until she found out exactly who she was. Once she found out who she was able to approach that dark side of her and find the light. And so even from Force Awakens, I completely 100% believe they knew she was either going to be related to someone, and I'm fairly confident to believe that they knew she was going to be related to Palpatine in some way, shape, or form. And Rian Johnson, people go on about that one bit, and it's like, for fact sake, it's like listening to Donald Trump. Do you honestly pay attention to anything Donald Trump says? No, because you know he's batshit crazy.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Kylo Ren. Would you, if Kylo Ren turned around to you and said, "You're not wearing jeans," you know, kind of like, would you kind of go, "No"?
I could swear I'm wearing jeans. What do you mean?
Yeah. Would you pay any attention to? No, because you know he's a bad guy. You know, and that's the kind of like thing about it. He was playing to her insecurities, and he told her what he needed her to know to get her on his side, and it nearly worked.
Okay, well, I think there was the other thing of at the end of Last Jedi where we got who was known as the Broom Kid, the kid who had the rise of force powers and stuff like that, totally disappeared with Rise of Skywalker.
Well, I mean,
never saw the Broom Kid again.
In all fairness, number one, Rise of Skywalker happened like a year after that, so he's not going to be much older than Anakin Skywalker was at the time. Number two, they took off on that ship. They didn't see him pick up a thing. That was almost like, you know, that was a show that the Force isn't necessarily dead.
That is out there. Yeah, the Force is out there.
It's still out there.
I got you.
It's just at the moment, we're not covering that part of the story. So nothing that happened in Rise of the Skywalker goes, you know, Rey didn't use up all the Force in the universe.
No.
The Force is a energy that's out there. For all we know, that kid could have been using it to kind of like force women's, like girls' panties down and everything like that.
Your world.
He could have been talked to the dark side, or he could have been one of these kids that ended up on Axanor, or whatever it's called. He could have been, you know.
I think that's Star Trek, bro, but
yeah, was
Star Trek. That's that Robert Meyer Burnett's.
What's the name of that planet that's where Darth Sidious turned out to be in Rise of Skywalker?
I don't know.
But he could have been a Force child that was taken on.
Yeah,
I don't care.
No.
Honestly, I couldn't.
No. I hear. I'm just saying that was just something that came to my mind. So we get let's talk about the black girl and Lando. You know, so we got these force quests that they're on. So they got these like triangles and they're trying to find shit. And then they end up on that planet, like, and they did the scene out of Aquaman where they look through the thing and it shows them something on them some shit far away. But we get these other stormtroopers, ex-stormtroopers who are now rebels and stuff like that, and they also happen to be black. So I don't know what was being said, but it was said in the first one that stormtroopers seem to be black under those uniforms. So this pirate girl, goes on this adventure, and Rose Tycho is back. She's relegated to, you know, doing admin at the encampment. But now that he's hanging out with Rey, right, they're going on adventures together. They're not separated anymore. They throw another potential love interest in with this girl and Finn. So it's like, Jesus Christ, just get to the action. What are these potential love interests that you're doing? But that girl who ends up hanging out with Finn as a sidekick throughout the thing, when Finn all of a sudden starts to have these force powers awakening. Should have did it 2 movies ago. In the end, because we got Lando who magically, because there was something wrong with the warp speed or something like that, but he magically goes off and gets a whole battalion of stars, ships of stars to come at the last minute to where they wouldn't listen to the rebellion all the time. They're calling, hey, can somebody help us? We're here by ourselves. Lando can, because he's smooth like Colt 45.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's Lando.
It's Lando. I'm going with you, Lando. Don't worry about it. I don't know who those people calling me on the phone.
I mean, there's very few, but he'd definitely be able to convert me.
Yeah. But that final scene that was just tacked on, I mean, because good old Billy, man, he probably can't move but 2 feet. He's sitting down next to the black girl, and I don't know who I am. You want to find out? Now, come on, man. Billy's like, he's not trying to say, hey, let's go do some Colt 45. But I read that that was supposed to be an indication that she is probably one of his progeny, is what I'm just trying to say. And it's just like, it was just too random. It was just too, you know what I mean?
I hate to sort of like say, but I think it was a Kevin Smith joke where it was like Lando was the only black guy in the Star Wars universe. So and for there to be more black,
At least, you know what? At least they didn't just say the obvious thing. Hey, you know what? Finn, maybe Lando's your dad.
Yeah, I mean,
at least thank God they didn't do that.
They didn't do that. Well, I think that probably, going back to it, you'd probably be able to draw that conclusion. Maybe that's why the romance we nearly had Luke and Leia getting it on. We don't want to have one of the memories of Star Wars being it was just every single one had incest in it.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly.
Fun for the family, Star Wars.
Yeah. So let's get to that big battle with the rise of Palpatine and the Shadow Guard, and everything, and Leia having superpowers, and Kylo comes in, and they battle together to, they kiss and he dies. What's up with that? Seriously, man.
I think again it was that whole Skywalker needed to sacrifice himself. He turned to the light. He found his way back to the light. But at the same time, I think he also had the realization.
You mean Ben Solo? You said Skywalker. Yeah.
Ben Solo, Skywalker. They were the same. But he had the realization that that family curse is still predominant. And he gave his remaining life to Rey so that family line was ended, and it gave her the chance to get rid of Sidious for the last time.
So was it the kiss of death then?
I think it was we have no other way of physically showing that moving off the Force or moving life force than what everybody already knows from Sleeping Beauty and any kind of like thing about it is the kiss was him him kind of like maybe using the opportunity to get a bit of action because I can't see him
with all these people watching me, dog. No, I didn't think about that. That could that could be the thing.
It's also there had to be something like that. They had this Dices, I think it was Dices or something like that. That force connection between them, and something needed to happen.
The dark and light kind of thing. Yeah.
But no, there was a connection between them, and the Darth Sidious calls it the Dices or something like that. And it was a powerful force bond that they had. Yeah, and it needed to. It couldn't sort of like one of them had to die for the other one to gain all the benefit from it. And that's one person sacrificing themselves for the other is what the sacrifice that was needed for the Force to create that.
So this brings us to that last line, when she puts the two lightsabers, she buries the two lightsabers on Tatooine. Do you think that maybe she took on the name Skywalker in honor of Ben Solo, who is a Skywalker, and if he transferred himself to her,
No,
in their duality. Do you think that was
no.
possible?
I think, as I said before, it wasn't her taking on the name because she suddenly becomes Skywalker or anything like that. It was her sort of like saying the Skywalker name has so much good that's being brought around. Leia, Luke, Anakin Skywalker, and obviously Ben Solo at the end of it. There was these light. The Skywalker name was good. It brought so much good to the universe, to that universe. That shouldn't have died. The blood needed to have died, but the name should have carried on because there was nothing wrong with that. And she wanted to pay honor to the good that those people have done by saying, it's not like I'm suddenly going to call myself Rey Skywalker all the time. It's her saying, I'm a Skywalker, you're a Skywalker, any of us could have the potential to be a Skywalker. We've all got that ability to be a hero. Yeah. And that's what the Skywalker name is. The Skywalkers and the Solos were heroes. It was when they became the Darths and the Kylos. When they weren't, they were different They were different people then. But when they got brought back to the light and they took their name again, they became heroes. And that's what she was saying. The Skywalkers are heroes. And that's why she was doing it. It wasn't it wasn't a spit in the face. It wasn't her suddenly becoming a Skywalker. It wasn't Kylo, Kylo, whatever. It wasn't him becoming part of her. It was we all can be we can all be heroes. We can all be Skywalkers.
So she'll go off now to form Skywalker Ranch, to train the new Jedis. And do you think, like, in their attempt, to make a new movie down the line, do you think that these three characters that they invented for this trilogy, Poe, Finn, and Rey, are worthy enough that they will spark, something in the new films to be made, or would they just do whole new people? I mean, did they do anything that made you think that now those guys, you need to return to them years down the line? Finn's the black girl and
I definitely think that Rey and Finn probably will, because the way that I envision it is they're never going to make a direct sequel to this saga, because it's what it's going to be is going to be 500 years later. And it's going to be, you'll have a new Jedi Council, and that new Jedi Council would have been started by Rey and Finn and the other Force sensitives that are going around it, and they would have laid a foundation down for the 500 years to it. So if you read reading all the Star Wars books, going right the way back to the original Jedi, as they were known, which was like a race of people who are Force sensitive.
Yeah.
And it's a cycle. It's a cycle all the time. It's like you've got the rise of the light, and then the dark comes along, and then you have a period of the dark, and then the light come along, and then it's always swapping and changing all the way through it, all the way up until what's going on. And obviously that's non-canon. But the next saga of films are going to be set in the High Republic, which is when the Jedi were at the strongest. But about 1,000 years before A New Hope. Yeah. So, and what I'd see is after that saga's done, and 10 years later, then maybe they will do one set 500 years after this saga, where Rey and Finn have done a foundation, and there's another threat, coming down. There's other threats that aren't. There are some threats in the books which aren't even Force related. Like I think it was the Vugon Voss, which are actual people, a race of people who aren't affected by the Force. So there's things that they can do. I don't necessarily think they will be doing anything going back. You might get, in the TV series, there might be something in the TV series where kind of like they'll go on, or Rey might meet Baby Yoda at some point in The Mandalorian, and that might form Yeah, that show is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That show is exactly, and that's what you want to be seeing from this universe. Is now this saga is done, you can get rid of all that. You can get rid of all that luggage, all that baggage that's going on there, and you can look at creating something set in that universe,
Yeah.
but separate. And the Mandalorian is a prime example of how you can do
I think
something.
Mandalorian is like after Return of the Jedi, isn't it?
It's after Return of the Jedi,
Mm-hmm.
before Force
Well,
Awakens.
of course, it's before Force Awakens,
Yeah,
but I meant
but
like
you
it's
can,
after Return of the Jedi.
yeah, but you can't have, you can have like the growth of Baby Yoda, where they don't grow that quickly. But
No, he's
you can
already
have,
500 years old, and he's only a baby.
yeah, you can have that, but seeing how it grows, and you can have a story about that, and then have it maybe meeting up with Ray later. Use Ray like you use the Hulk, or have it popping in, and kind of like her character is there, like Ahsoka Tano from have her popping in and popping out. And
Ahsoka, you mean?
Ahsoka, yeah,
Because there's Bo-Katan and there's Ahsoka.
yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah. But
No worries. I don't.
no,
I'm not usually this geeky.
yeah. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying though is that
They're
her
both are
saga's
in
done.
two. They're
Yeah,
both supposed to be in
she's
Mandalorian too.
yeah she's done. Ray's done. Finn's story is done. Although you may not like how small it was, it's
Mm-hmm.
done. That kind of saga has put everything to an end. And Ray, they've set up something where Ray has the ability to form something in the future. She has all the books, she has all the tablets,
Mm-hmm.
she has connected with the Force ghosts. She can gain that education that she needs to build up the Jedi Order
Yeah.
from the beginning again. So I don't think we'll see them necessarily in their own movie sets moving
Yeah.
forward again. But you probably will hear about them. They will be in the league in that legendary status where you will hear about them doing stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you state a good case, and I mean, obviously, this is a major film franchise, and it will survive. Even after Kathleen and JJ, it'll survive in a new form somewhere down the line. Especially with the Mandalorian being so successful, as you just said. More than likely with Disney Plus, something's coming. So,
Yeah,
it,
they're doing an awful lot, and the new. I'm looking forward to the new saga set in the past, because after reading the books, there are some really good stories there. Kind of like if you've ever played Knights of the Old Republic,
I've heard of it. I heard that was potentially a new series
but that's
or
that's the area that is set in the Old
oh,
Republic.
mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think that it's available on your phone. You can download it and play it, and it's not that expensive. It is worth, because the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic, is a brilliant Star Wars game, and it's a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
it sets up this lore that they have set of how it's doing it. And I don't necessarily think that they're going to throw everything that's being written away, because they brought Thrawn in.
No, exactly. And I think because they're going that way, it's like because that also was in Rise, was the Crimson Republic. When they fought the red, they were pretty much called the Crimson Republic, I think,
Yeah.
right? And so that would be interesting if you got the Knights of the Old Republic, and then you had this new Republic or these Red Guards and everything else like that. That you have a potential, because what I really find fascinating about the Mandalorian is that the samurai aspect of it. So when you have the Mandalorians, we only really were aware of Boba Fett and then potentially Jango Fett, with the Clone Wars. But I'm loving the whole mythology behind the Mandalorians, and I'm glad we're going to see more of it. But I love what I've seen already, and I love the series, how it has that samurai, Western feel to it with Lone Wolf and Cub and everything. So Yeah, I mean, Mandalorians. That I mean, I could see a movie being made about that. Do you know what I mean?
I don't want them to make a movie of it. I think that what they've done.
Well, yeah, the series is fine. I get what you mean. Yeah, the series is fine, but
If they make a movie of it, then they fall into that trap again of having to, if you're making a movie like that, you've got to have enough stuff in there
yeah,
so that people aren't bored and it moves along. And one of the great things about this day of age with entertainment is that people aren't constrained by that anymore. You have the ability to tell long form stories watched over several episodes.
Yeah.
And really take it, really sort of like flesh things out a lot more.
Yeah.
And that's the Mandalorian did that so well. Was just kind of like, just bringing in the various little bits, and it was a universe we were familiar with, but we didn't get caught up with the whole lightsaber things or anything like that. We had an entirely different viewpoint on it, and that's the thing. The films are very much Jedi things. That's what we want to see in the movies. We want to see,
and they're bringing the Clone War cartoon characters in as well.
Yeah. But but the movies, we want to see Jedi. We want to see lightsabers and force powers and all that stuff. Whereas with the TV series, we're not bogged down by that. We can take our time to enjoy the fleshed out universe of the other characters.
Yeah. Well, James, I just want to say, man, it has been fantastic having these conversations again. This was really a great experience and stuff. And no, seriously. And I mean, I hope we get to do it again. I mean, again, we have to make the benefit of this lockdown and YouTube, because as I said before, the show is on YouTube now, and so we need people to like and subscribe, and you can also comment when the show actually comes on as well, and everything. And so I'm Chase Johnson Lynch. This is my man James Brooksbanks. It's time for us to put these films back on the shelf, and everything. And until the next time, all I can always say, as I say before, is to keep watching.